welcome. My name is Rose. And in this video, we're gonna look at my Monstera propagations. So about 2 months ago, I cut up my variegated Monstera to test out if I was able to propagate it, because before that, I had never successfully propagated a Monstera before. You can check out that video here, if I do that correctly. Maybe it's there. I still don't know. It's been a few years, but... So yeah, we're gonna look at the successes first. This is the mama plant that I had in there. And surprisingly, not only the top node started to grow, this is a new leaf from that, and there's another one here. See, it's about to unfurl. But also the node all the way at the bottom that was actually underneath the soil grew out and created this beautiful leaf, already with 2 fenestrations and beautiful variegation, so that's really cool. And it's growing another one as well. So that looks really good. This is definitely a success story. I recently popped the moss pole in here to help it grow a little bit better, and I tied the aerial root that you can see there around the pole. I'm hoping that will help it to grow into it, even though the pole is already super dry, so I need to spray that. Since we're here anyway, let's just wet the pole again. There we go. Let's look at the other one. This is the second one. This was actually that one node that was already rooted into the ground with an aerial root, but I recently repotted it so it wasn't sticking out of the soil a lot. It was all the way in there. There we go. And this has started to grow, and it's put out this one leaf, which looks very sad. It might be because I touched it, and I shouldn't touch new leaves, especially if they're completely new. It does have a lot of white in it, which is beautiful. I just want to show you this leaf up close because it is so pretty. See, if you look past the damage that I created, it actually has a fenestration here, and then this is full white in this corner. And the new leaf, which is coming in here, well, the petiole it's coming out of is very white, so I'm curious to see how that looks. Yeah, so that's another success. It's alive. I shouldn't have touched it, but it's alive. Then the less successful story. This is the top cutting. And yes, that looks very sad. Look. So I noticed quite quickly that the big 3 leaves that it had, that was not sustainable for this cutting. So I cut off most of the leaves, and then in the end I had to cut off the last one, and one of the aerial roots rotted because I was not able to keep the moisture of the perlite right, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I recently popped it in here, so a little bit more humidity in the plastic bag, and I put it in my propagation space where it gets more warmth and more light, and I'm hoping that it will survive, because this was such a beautiful cutting, and now it just looks super sad. A little bit closer so you can see it better. I don't want to hold it too crooked because perlite will spill into my house. But see how sad that looks? And here was the aerial root that rotted away. And there's one more aerial root that's like in the perlite here. So what I did wrong with the perlite is that I poured water in it again and again to keep it moist. I didn't want it to dry out, but apparently it was a lot too much. So I kept it too wet, and then it got really hot in the Netherlands, and I forgot about it, and I let it dry out too much. So I couldn't keep it at the right balance of moisture, if that makes sense. So what I've done since, after talking to Georgia about this, she is the best. She has great advice. Definitely check out her highlights. And in general, I would say check out our profiles before you ask us questions, because a lot of the questions are answered in people's highlights or in people's YouTube videos. If you make a little bit of an effort, you'll find a lot of information and answers very quickly. But what I've done and what I've learned from Georgia, if you have it in an environment like this where there is no way that the moisture can evaporate because of the plastic, you don't have to water it again for months. Only if it's an open vessel, then you might have to water again to keep it moist. But if it's like this, just leave it alone. So that's what I've been doing with this one. And what I've been doing with this one, oh, it's growing, look! Show you up close again. So this was a tiny cutting that I popped in here and then had in a plastic baggie to up that humidity, and it's actually growing, which is very exciting. And for another project that I'm filming today, I actually need this glass. So we're gonna repot this. And I don't actually know if this has any roots. All right, let's check it out. Huh, I thought it's growing, so it must have lots of roots. But there's one tiny root that's growing downwards and hit the bottom of the glass. So I guess it's a good thing that we're repotting this. I'm gonna actually put it in a higher vessel, so it has a little bit more space to grow down. Thank you, YouTube, for making me repot this one. This perlite is a little bit green, which is not bad. It smells a little bit bleh, so I guess I will just use fresh perlite. Here. I guess I can show you now how I would water this. So I just put it in the plastic baggie, and that's gonna go on my propagation shelf where it's nice and warm from the bottom, gets enough light from the top, and the humidity is nice and high because of the bag. And I'm gonna just let that sit there and ignore it and hopefully see some roots kind of soon. And I took a very extra long bag this time, so it has space to unfurl that leaf. Stay tuned. Mickey. Oh. He's really charming the tourists that walk by. It's awesome. That's it for how my propagations are going right now. I'm actually planning to cut another one of my big Monsteras because I really want to be able to succeed at growing a top cutting in a good way and not letting it look like this first and then having to fully regrow it. So I actually air layered my big Monstera, just the top cutting, because the rest of the plant is already growing into the soil, so that's a great start. But that top cutting, I really want to keep that in a nice, good quality. I'm going to wait for it to root a little bit into the moss and for the leaf to be fully hardened before I cut it. But that's my next plan, and I will definitely make a video about that for you as well. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? How did I do? I wouldn't call this a success story at all, but just like you guys, I'm learning, and that's what I'm sharing. I'm gonna try and put some educational videos out there, but it's more my experience, and hopefully you can learn from that through my mistakes. I am definitely proud of this one with the 2 growth points. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you in the comments. I love chatting with you guys there, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.